Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Hang. We are extremely, extremely honored to be here hanging with the owner of our home of The Hang, Mr. Jack Tyler. Let's give it up for Jack Tyler.
Hello. Yeah, okay.
A sitting ovation.
Yeah.
That's all I could ask for.
Yeah, man. How are you?
I'm well, especially after I had this delightful coffee.
Dude. Yeah. It was honestly, I started this blend like with both of you guys in mind because when you did the Inner Urge coffee
Yes.
for BSS, like I was like, man, this is such a cool way to market stuff. And I love coffee, maybe not as much as you do, but
It's debatable.
I do love coffee a lot. And then the whole Wrong Notes Only thing, we started together, so
It's a match made in heaven.
it really is. It really is, and it's a good blend of coffee. I think.
I like it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing it with me.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. But what's new? What's going on?
We had the Super Bowl, which
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I had the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Cool.
So I think that was like the most recent
Big event?
national
Yeah,
news. Yeah.
sure.
I actually don't know who played in the Super Bowl.
Okay. Taylor
So-
Swift played.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. No, I figured I'd just ask you guys because
Yeah.
I have no idea.
It was Usher versus Taylor Swift.
Wow. Who won?
Taylor Swift.
Of course.
Yeah.
Naturally. But yeah, no, apart from that, just pleasure to be here with you fellas, and a lot of new stuff coming our way for the brand, which of course you guys are a part of in a big way, and I appreciate that. But yeah, we can talk about that if you want to.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, in a second, I think we'll get into some of those specifics. But first,
Yeah.
for anybody out there, and by the way, all of you should know our esteemed guest today. But if there is anyone out there who happens to not know who you are, or, this is your chance to give them a clean slate of who you are and why they should listen to you.
Or just pause the video and immediately run for the hills.
That's right. I'll put a timestamp where we can jump ahead. It's fine.
This is the exit right now if you want to take it.
Oh, yeah.
You want me to describe myself?
yeah, in your own words.
Okay. With noises or just...
Measurements, whatever you want.
Okay.
Whatever. Yeah,
Sure.
we're
Yeah.
open to anything here.
Okay. Well, I don't want to give away my weight. That would be uncouth. Okay. Well, I guess I own the Boston Sax Shop, which is a repair shop. It's where we are right now. It started off as a repair shop. Actually, next month will be 10 years, which is mildly
Wow.
terrifying at how fast that went by. But started making products. I don't know why I'm looking at you. Like maybe 7 years ago, and yeah, it's been a wild ride. We've gotten to do some really, really cool stuff. Gotten to work with many of my heroes, two of which are sitting here today, and yeah, a lot more coming down the pike. Trying to do things a little differently. I don't want to put words in my own mouth, but I guess I'm going to, and just say I'm trying to fuck shit up. Really, it's kind of it's kind of the
Yeah.
vibe. Just take it a different approach to this industry, which I think is needed. Maybe you agree. I don't know.
I agree.
I think
I
you
love
do.
that.
Yeah.
One thing I love about that, the fact that you say you want to take it or do things differently or take something in a different direction, is that you're still doing traditional things and playing acoustic instruments and saxophone and jazz and doing all this, but you're kind of not following the times, but you're going with the times, which I think is really important. And that's what I always loved about Boston Sax Shop, is that you're not just, oh, here's another saxophone company that they have saxophones and reeds and like they take a page out in Downbeat magazine,
For the dentist's office.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's cool that, if you ask people, in certain spaces on Instagram or on Facebook or on a forum or, in real life, like different saxophone companies or just music companies in general, how you've, become such a big part of that in your own way and in a really forward-thinking way, which I think is really cool.
Well, that's very sweet of you. I don't think there's anything that I've done that's highly original in terms of how we built the brand. I think it more comes down to, looking outside of what we do, which you guys have obviously both done to build your careers, and looking at what's working for so many other industries, whether it's, the fashion industry or, literally anything. And I feel like this industry was 10, 15 years behind all of that, kind of when I think all of us kind of got started and we saw the opportunity that other people had made within their spaces. And for me, it really comes down to you guys and just the fact that, especially during the pandemic, which I think really turn things for this brand, was just recognizing that a lot of the companies were not working with their artists in a way that was really doing anybody, the best possible service. I mean, you guys are out there grinding, getting content out there, putting your names out there, and we have so much more access to, not to use a dirty word, but our customers, right, online than we ever have before. And to not take advantage of that, it just was kind of mind-blowing for me when I started looking at it again from a different perspective of what you just said, like the traditional route, which is like, here's a free mouthpiece, and now I'm going to own you for life. And again, do one downbeat ad and make you feel like, you owe me for that. And so, that's a really big part of it. And I'm just grateful that it's been working, and in an altruistic sense, which I'm definitely, greedy. But I do honestly hope that over time, more companies will take this approach with their artists and the people that are endorsing them. And you feel free to tell me if I'm doing a shit job.
No, you're doing a great job.
I'm trying.
One thing I love that you just said is you're like, I haven't done anything new. That may or may not be true. I think it's not true. You are doing new things. But one thing I think a lot of people get so hung up with in any business is like they want to be like Steve Jobs. I want to do. They try to shoot for this moon instead of starting and iterating. Like, how about you start and see how it's working and actually listen to the market or your customers or whatever, and then make adjustments. I think not everybody starts out with a home run idea. Yeah. We don't put our first thing out, whether it's an album or a coffee blend, and just like I have to wait till it's the absolute perfect, most innovative thing, and then everything else is going to pass you by, right? Because perfect and all that. But like if you just start but you're in tune with what's going on and you're able to adjust, adapt. Yeah. And then I think that's going to be the most successful things. You see what works, you see what doesn't, and you're willing to try different things. Yeah. Oh, this works, this doesn't work. And I think that's, talking about why this is so successful, I think, is that you're willing to do different things, and especially like you said, other industries that are already doing. That maybe music industries or specifically jazz or specifically saxophone aren't doing as much. So I think that's taking inspiration from those is really great idea.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I think one thing that's really important, and I have these conversations like outside of this industry, just talking to other people that might be in product development or design, and it's really funny because a lot of times when you take again a step back and look at it a little bit more objectively, a little bit more from that lens, and look at some of the stuff that's out there, again, not even just in our industry, oftentimes you're like, well, who is this really for? Yeah. I think that you're right. Like, it's really, really, really imperative to have that sense of not only a story behind what you're trying to market to people in terms of branding, but also, you got to know who you're marketing to, which sounds really obvious. But again, if you look around, you're like, well, who's buying the $700 carbon fiber ligature? Like, who is that? Who's that really for? Just one random example. But I've really tried to, and again, I hope you agree, like, listen to what you guys want. And then also, like, I used to play. So I'm like,
not used to.
Well, just stop it. I've always been like, I'm my customer. I thought about the things that I wanted for myself that didn't exist, because frankly, like, when we got started, like, the same neck straps were available like when I was in high school. Like, there hadn't been anything really that new. Same thing with like reeds and all that stuff. And then the stuff that was kind of coming into vogue, to me, seems so insanely ridiculous and over-designed, and not practical from the standpoint of what you're actually just going to want to put on your horn when you're, crouched down in the back of Wally's trying to get your ligature on, and you have to like break out a digital calipers to try and align your Silverstein. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So, practicality, knowing your market, and being really... not that you asked, but just like being really open and honest with your customer base, because we live in a time now where most consumers are way, way, way more attuned to what they're buying, and they want to do research, and they want to know that they're not getting hosed because unfortunately, there's a lot of people, not just in this industry, that have really taken advantage of that.
Yeah.
You know, taken advantage of the lack of information to kind of pull one over on folks. And I believe that I've made this joke many times. Like, if I made a chart on the website that said, if you buy the silver neck, it's going to do all these magical things. And but if you want, you know, this, you got to get the gold one. And like, I probably would sell more stuff initially.
Right.
But I think long term, that sense of trust that you can build by just being like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, just pick the one that's going to look the best. Like, that turns people off because they want that feeling of it's special and it's unique, and like they don't want that mystery to be pulled away from them. Just like we don't like to know, you know, the magician's tricks. It kind of takes the mystery out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, long term, I think you know, having that level of transparency is going to pay big dividends.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned this, because I think in the jazz education world as well, like I just went to the Mingus Festival and like with the high school band that I'm working with, and they were talking about how kind of in the same light, like, well, not even, they weren't really talking about it, but it was kind of like a side conversation of people in the education field or that are selling things like to show that they know more than they actually do. And then that diminishes a lot of like what younger people, like I know people that want to, that think they know what they want to buy, like students, like, oh, if I get a silver horn, it's going to be brighter, or a silver neck, it's going to be brighter. That doesn't always necessarily be true. You know what I mean? Or like the whole like mouthpiece, like material thing, like, oh, it's not, if I buy a rubber mouthpiece, it's going to be darker than a metal mouthpiece. Well, you know, like all these things like aren't necessarily true. And the same thing goes in the education world, like where you can get a teacher that has a little bit of an ego that likes to, you know, well, that, yeah. No, but seriously, like that show that they know more than they do, and it's kind of like a fake, like a facade. You know what I mean? And then these students see this person that they look up to that isn't playing at a super high level, and then they think it's okay to not strive for something more. You know what I mean? I feel like that can kind of be a similar with the product thing, you know, of showing, you know, like a chart of like, oh, if you want to sound like this, go for that, but you're going to lose the longevity of,
well, it's an easier way to do it.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's harder, and not to pat myself on the back or you guys, but I think it's harder. Well, no, I do want to pat you on the back. Never mind. It's harder to like, you know, stand behind it and really be able to take the hard questions and take the criticism, which I know we've all individually dealt with on our own.
Shout out to the haters, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Shout out. Love you guys.
Yeah, it's tougher to do it that way, but like I go to bed feeling great every night because I feel like I can justify you know, what I've done, and I know you guys feel the same way. So
yeah, absolutely. But I also think something we should talk about is you as a player, because that's another reason.
This
but
was
you
just a trap, by the way. We're gonna cut all that stuff about Boston Sax Shop.
That's fine.
You kind of touched on it though, like you are designing a product for yourself, and that's why people trust you. I mean, at first as a repair tech, you know, as a repair guy, like, you know, people could bring your horn and trust that you would set it up for a player because you're a player. You know, like I had people that will go unnamed that I worked with in Florida for my saxophone that I would give them my horn for an overhaul, and I'd get it back and it played worse. You know what I mean? Because they couldn't play it. They didn't know what was going on. Yeah. But like going into the fact that you went to Cincinnati Conservatory for your undergrad, right? And then NEC for your grad. And you're, you know, I've seen videos, you play your ass off. You know, and how do you think that, like, going to those two music schools, like, helped you build what you have now and influenced what Boston Sax Shop is today?
Sure. It's a good question. It's very, very sweet of you to say.
Oh yeah, man.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I think I was like a lot of us when I was in college, where like I was always searching for like the next best piece of gear, you know, and I fell into all the same traps that many of us do, which was like everything we were just talking about. I was like, oh, if I have an SBA, I'm gonna sound like Mark Turner, and like, you know, that kind of shit. So I was always trying stuff, and you know, when you're surrounded by a bunch of other saxophone players, like, you know, it kind of feeds the fire. But I mean, there were many years of my life where I just thought I was gonna play for a living. And coming to NEC really kicked my ass, you know, kind of back down to being a little bit more humble. And that's when I started kind of exploring the options of doing the repair thing as a side hustle. And then I won't go into the whole story, but that just opened up a possibility for me that I never thought would happen. Like when I graduated from NEC, the music store that I was working at was closing, and then the guy that I had apprenticed with unfortunately passed away. So like there literally wasn't, you couldn't go buy a box of reeds in the entire city of Boston for like a year. So it was like
Wow.
you have to do this. And I was very close with the guy that I apprenticed with, and it just felt like the right thing to kind of continue on his, his legacy. I started, the first little space was like 300 square feet, and I was just fixing horns.
Did you have a name?
It was the Boston Sax
Oh,
Shop.
from the beginning.
Yeah,
So that's
from the
been
very beginning. Yeah, it's a much longer story. I actually started off as a business partnership. I didn't come up with that name. I did come up with the logo, which I'm very proud of, but the name I didn't come up with.
how'd they come up with Boston? That's a cool name. Like
it
how
is,
they
yeah, it's actually pronounced Boston.
But one more time.
Do this. Boston.
Oh.
Can you do it?
No, I can't.
You can. I believe in you.
Piston.
No, it's a little too articulate.
Okay.
You got to really just like. There's a lot of like regional language. Like
Okay.
when you moved here, like
Yeah.
did you know how to pronounce Worcester? Or
No,
did
I
you say
said
Worcester.
I said Worcester, and someone like almost hit me in the face for
Yep,
it.
can't do that. What about Dorchester? See, that one fucks you up.
It does.
Because it's not. You would think, right? Worcester, no, it's Worcester.
Worcester.
Dorchester should be
Duster.
Dorchester, but it's not.
It's Dorchester.
So as I was
Yeah.
saying,
We're not in
most
London. What is this?
Most people say Boston, but
Yeah.
it's actually Boston.
Okay, gotcha.
You got to
Cool.
really soft. If you overemphasize,
So it's the Boston Sax Shop.
that's right.
Okay, cool.
This is the content you guys
This is
came
exactly
for.
what we came here for.
Make sure
yeah.
you like and subscribe, everybody.
Okay, I'm glad we got that taken care of.
Cool,
'Cause
cool.
it gets under my skin.
I'll turn
Yeah.
my
It's like,
microphone off.
I go to
now.
the Boston Sax Shop. No, it's Boston Sax Shop.
Cool. Okay.
Anyways, no, I didn't come up with the name. I think it's a horrible name. I think it's boring.
What would you have named it?
I don't know. I don't know because I really despise the word sax. It's kind of like moist. Like those two words, they just drive me crazy. I don't like sax. It's saxophone. The
So-
Boston Saxophone Shop is way
too
too
long.
goddamn long.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't do that.
Just cross it out. The Boston Shop.
Just a Boston shop. Well, what if we just all said sax? Like a lot. Like don't stop. So this is what we need to turn the word into a sound so that we all hate it.
Okay.
So just
That's
sax.
the sound of a saxophone.
Sax.
for most people.
Sax.
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 Well, yeah, sax. See? Stupid word. That you can use.
Okay, cool. Okay.
That was better anyways. But also like Boston, I never thought that we'd be able to take the brand anywhere because it's such a specific thing.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Like we've got people in Brazil that play Boston Sax Shop reeds.
Right.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
It's just like do they care about Boston? It's just like I wish it was a more like a I don't know, like a more universal name.
The Sax Shop? The saxophone shop.
You said sax.
The Shop.
The shop. Yeah.
Anyway,
There's actually an automotive company. It's called The Shop Inc. The Shop
Oh, really?
Incorporated.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
The Shop.
Anyways, so
So in the comments, you should put new names for the
Yeah.
Boston Sax Shop.
Yeah.
What should the Boston Sax Shop be called?
So then I started selling stuff that I was importing, right? So like I was like, I don't want to play Van Doren reeds because they suck. I'm gonna reach out and like find something that is better. So I had to stop throwing away these reeds. So I started selling Rigatti reeds, right?
Yeah.
Because I loved that's what I played in college.
Yeah.
And then I started bringing in like other stuff that was a little bit off the beaten path, like Ishimori. And it took a really long time for me to realize if I'm selling this stuff, I could maybe just do it myself.
Yeah.
You know, because the problem was, and I'm not going to take full credit for this, but I think at least regionally, before I was really pushing that stuff, not as many people had heard of those products.
No.
I mean, again, like it's not that they didn't exist, but like I was trying to like take interesting photographs of the products and like do like flat lays with other things that I liked that weren't saxophone related. And again, like I don't know if I was the first person to do that, but I feel like I really pushed that.
Yeah.
And then what happened is a lot of other people started selling the same stuff I was selling. So I was like in competition. Like there was literally websites that were using my photographs
Yeah.
to sell the same products. And I was like, well, this sucks. You
Yeah.
know? And I was like, I was such a baby back then. I was like, well, that's not fair. You know, it's business. You're
First
gonna
day on the internet, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
I got my ass handed to me. And then I was like, I love all this stuff, but I also, like, if I could change some things about it, I would. But I don't know how. I don't know anything about making stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when I just started reaching out to some of the companies and being like, well, could we do this a little different? Is that even possible? And the ones that say yes said yes, and now we're here.
It's funny, man. One of my
You got to cut the sax stuff. I can't
okay,
deal with that.
that's fine. That's
For the
fine.
love of God.
That was good.
Wait,
Okay.
can I derail it a little? Well, not
Yeah,
derail it, but
please.
I want to take it in a slightly different
I've
way.
just been rambling.
Before you, because you started talking about you as a player, but then you weaseled your way out of it
Yes,
again.
I did.
So I want to bring it back there for a second.
Yeah.
So we have a little segment here on the hang
Yeah.
where we ask people what their most what horrible gig story or like an embarrassing
Unfortunate
gig story,
events,
like something
yeah.
that happened
Oh, I've got a good one.
playing. Yeah.
Okay,
Take
perfect.
it away. I can't
Okay.
wait to hear it.
All right. So there is a Yaz camp in Door County, Wisconsin called Birch Creek. You guys ever heard of that camp?
Mm-mm.
Shout out Birch Creek.
Yeah, word. Anyways, so this is a camp that was really popular because I grew up outside of Chicago. So like a lot of Midwestern chillin' would go there for their yazzing.
Nice.
And I loved it. It was so cool. It was just like the nerdiest. Yeah, it's band camp basically, but for Yaz. Which, by the way, that's another pronunciation we should clear up.
Yeah. Yes.
There you go.
Cool.
Anyways, so I got asked to be on the faculty as a teaching assistant my senior year of high school or first year of college. I don't know. They kind of blend together because I was just practicing like an idiot. And the tenor player, who, if you haven't checked this guy out, his name is Doug Stone. Probably never heard of him. One of the baddest cats on the planet. Yeah, please check him out.
Shout out.
Disturbingly good. And so he was like the first chair tenor, and I was second chair tenor because I was the student faculty. And the first night we had a performance right in front of all of the kids and like all the local people. And we were going to do like a rhythm changes battle because what else would you do if you played a tenor saxophone?
Sure.
And I stood up after he had just played like 5 of the most burning choruses ever. I mean, this guy is like a freak of nature. Like literally, because he's just ridiculous. Like he would leave me voicemails, which is why I'm doing this because that somehow helps with the visual aid.
If you're just listening on the podcast, he put the
He put the phone, like the hang loose, but a phone.
Yeah, definitely not hang loose. I wouldn't do that. Anyways, he would leave me voicemails singing rhythm changes solos by their by like the chord tone numbers, like in time
Whoa.
and in pitch. Yeah.
Jeez.
Dang.
I don't know what that means, but it
Right.
always made me feel like shit. Anyways, so he plays all these amazing choruses, and I stand up, and I had been sitting there, and my reed was dry, and the first note I
Good
played my
excuse.
reed.
Always got to have that excuse in the back pocket.
Oh,
Yeah,
Dry
for
reed.
sure. Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
also a Van Doren reed. So, but I stood up and I was so goddamn nervous because like I have to like, and I'm not like I never had chops.
What?
Shh. Okay, so I stood up and the first note I played, the reed splits.
Splits?
So he's like, and I stand up and go,
Yo.
and then I froze.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
Because the reed it
Just-
wouldn't play. It split down the middle,
Wow.
and I just stood there. I kept standing because I thought that was a good idea, and I just stood there. And eventually, after like a full A section, he stood up and kept playing, and it was like the most embarrassing shit ever. Because I was the youngest person in the band.
Yeah.
Half the students out there were like my age. So they were expecting me to be like burning, and I just stood up and squeaked at everybody. So there you
Wow.
go. That's
love
my,
that.
That's my story. Do you love that for me?
I do.
I think
obsessed
we
with that?
should use that as an ad for Van Doren reeds.
oh.
Whoops.
If you want to choke in front of a crowd,
Oh goodness.
play V16.
Oh my goodness. I do love
Like
that.
the Just Do It ads. It's like
yeah.
just
Play V16.
Just blew it.
well, wait.
just-
What's
just
the
split it.
what's the Van Doren slogan? Don't they have like a slogan like that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, look it
Yeah.
up.
Do they have one?
I think they
Oh.
do. I thought
Is
it's
this-
like
it's-
it's like a couple words.
I think it's like
yeah, it's like
go for the sound.
yeah, something like that.
Go for the sound.
So instead of go for the sound, it's like go for the chirp.
Slogo. I
Go
went
for the
to their
tone.
when I was in
Go for the
France. I went to their office and went in, and it was very awkward.
where you like immediately escorted out.
No, they had no idea
We
who
know
I
who
was,
you
which
are.
also just like I don't know. It was very humbling because they don't give a shit about
Yeah.
us. They don't care. Yeah, I don't think they have one.
Us
But
is-
I do remember that
Dang,
they
I
had
thought
those
they used
ads in
to.
Downbeat that was like,
Yeah,
color your sound.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
The saxophone player was in black and white, but then like the box was like
green or whatever. Yeah,
red. Yeah.
yeah.
What's that called where you see sounds and colors?
Synesthesia.
Yeah. there you go.
Synesthesia.
Yeah,
The-
I don't know.
That one.
That one. Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
that's what
the one
they-
Adam Neely talks about.
Synesthesia.
Maybe that's
Oh,
what they were
yeah.
going for. Oh, does
Yeah.
he have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those folks.
One of those young folk.
Yeah. There you
But
go.
interesting. That's cool. That's a good story. I feel like these are the moments that we always relive. Like I don't know. I relive bad gig stories like whenever I am on the way to a gig. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I don't want to do that again. But this one is interesting because like it almost seemed like it was out of your control. You know what I mean? Like the reed splitting.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Bought a box band.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Never happened to my silver labels.
Yeah, there you go. What
That's true.
what's the normal story? Is it something like stiffed on the money or
Well, I don't know. I mean, the ones that we've shared, one of them was my fault.
Oh, that was a great one.
Yeah, the short end of the story, I won't repeat it, but the short end of the story is that I had to play flute on a wedding gig.
Oh no.
And there were two Taylor Swift songs to help the bride walk down the aisle and then walk back up the aisle after she's been married. And we didn't rehearse because why would you rehearse a Taylor
On her
Swift
most
song?
important day.
On her most important day.
Camera's
And-
rolling. Camera's rolling.
Oh yeah, camera's rolling. Microphone like right here as I'm playing flute, and I'm like my lips like quivering. You know, it's like the whole thing.
Did you almost say whips?
Whips. My whips were wibbling.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, man, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, and so we go to play the tune, and the keyboard player and guitar player that I was playing with was in a different key than me.
Mhm.
And I'm playing flute. I don't know how to transpose on flute. So I find like
Here's what
it's like,
flute
you
can
know, so everybody's looking at me like, what is going on? And the bride's like not knowing what to do because I'm her cue to walk down the aisle.
Oh, great.
And then we had to play another song coming back up. So I'm like sweating bullets.
Mm.
And I'm like, guys, we got to make sure that we're in the right key for this next song. And of course, this short story is we weren't in the right key again.
Nice.
And so she
You
walks.
just
She
doubled
starts
down on it.
Well, yeah, she starts walking up the aisle, and I got so frustrated. Thank God I had my soprano with me because we were playing like a cocktail hour set or whatever. I threw my flute onto the grass,
Which is what you should.
Which is what you all
always
should do.
when
Yeah.
you're playing flute.
and I grabbed my soprano
Mhm.
and I played it on soprano fine. Also, funny, you're in this story too because
Oh no.
it was right when I moved here and I didn't have a soprano, so I borrowed a soprano from you. It was your soprano that I borrowed,
Oh, that's nice.
and it played fantastic.
Oh, that's great. I didn't pay you to say that.
No.
Speaking of wedding gig stories, I only have played one wedding gig in my entire life, and one
You're
time
so
it was,
lucky.
I know. One time, I never got asked back. I subbed for I subbed for Mike Tucker.
Oh, really?
And this is when I was going through a really heavy Mark Turner phase,
Oh no.
Oh no!
and I've like never had the ability to not do like I have no versatility as a musician. I can only do one thing, and so I it was like top 40, and I was just going oh. Oh,
So not Clarence Clemens.
yeah, no.
Which we probably should have.
That's crazy.
I wish that there was a recording.
Dude,
of it,
oh
because
my
it would have been great.
God.
I was doing like the fucking bounce.
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
whole,
The
The
whole
whole Mark
shtick.
Turner vibe.
While you're
Dude.
playing like Springsteen stuff.
Yeah. It
September.
was like My Sharona with you know,
That's like that Instagram playing Mark Turner plays.
yeah, except it was real.
That's killing,
That's
dude.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Never
there's a
got
great
asked to do it
recording
again.
that someone put of Chuck Mangione's "It Feels So Good," but Steve Grossman's solo on New Breed from Lighthouse,
Yeah.
and it is incredible. I think it makes the tune sound better, but that's just my ear. I don't know,
Yeah. You have
But-
a very
That's
specific-
Chris Vidala, right? On tenor,
man. I don't know
I think.
who played with Chuck Mangione.
I think Chris Vidala.
Really,
Vidala? Yeah.
Vidala?
I think he taught at University of Maryland
Dang,
for
dude.
years. Dude,
How do you
deep,
know this?
Deep.
He's Dave Pollock.
Oh, that's true.
Jack, you would like the one of my bad stories, embarrassing tenor. It was like a corporate thing once again. Of course all this stuff happens on like
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
happen at like, actually if something happened at Smalls, nobody would care.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, whatever, he's experimenting.
It's a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice. We were playing like Careless Whisper, and it started with this big drum fill, and I was doing it on tenor because whatever, high F sharp. Like, now we're gonna feature Dave. Blah, ba, da, ba, duka, duka, duka. And I go to play, and all you hear is right. I was like, ooh, this is not right.
Yeah.
The side high F key.
That was actually a really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. That reminds me. Do you know the show Car Talk?
Car talk.
Yeah, it was like on NPR when. Come on, you guys
No.
aren't that old. Or that
Oi.
young. Anyways, no, they would
Okay.
always have the people like make the noise that their car was
Oh,
making.
I've
I
seen
haven't
clips of
seen
this.
that.
It's like they
Usually-
call in and they
yeah. And usually it's like way off. But
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was like dead on for what you're about to say.
You're
I taught
worry.
elementary school for a long time. I know what this sounds
I
like.
guess, yeah.
Yeah.
And as you know, if your side high F key, which is the first key on the saxophone besides the octave key, the solder broke off. It was a Con 10M. that I've been borrowing for like the last 10 years. But I guess it broke somewhere before then, and it was just hung wide open, and I didn't know it. So not a single. I'm on the microphone. There's a spotlight, there's smoke and light. It's a whole thing. So that was bad. So I just like turned around to the guitar player. I was like, "Yo, you take it," and I walked off the back of the stage.
Amazing. Did you bow first?
What?
Did you give a little bow? Before?
No, I just turned around. I was like, I freaked out.
We were talking about this the other day in the shop. One time we saw Lovano play, and he like leaned into his palm keys, and he literally popped one off during the middle of a gig, and he like within 30 seconds like reached into his pocket, he pulled out a napkin, shoved it into the tone hole, and just kept going.
That's so badass.
Yeah, what a baller.
Wow.
I would have been like, well, I can't play anymore.
Yeah.
I'm putting my horn down and going home.
Yeah.
Papa Lovano.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
Did I ever tell you this story the first time that I worked on his horn?
No.
So he came into Rayburn, and Emilio wasn't there. And they're like, "Oh, we got this young little bastard in the back. He might take a look for you." So I look at Lovano's horn, and I'm like freaking out. But at that point, I actually, believe it or not, had more of an ego than I do now. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, I dropped a light in this horn. It was a Christmas tree. Like, literally everything is leaking. There's ripped pads. Like, it was just a disaster. Like, no human being on the planet could play this horn besides Joe Lovano. And again, my ego, I'm like, you know what? You leave this with me, Joe. You go have lunch, go have a bite of lasagna, and I will I'm going to change a bunch of pads on this horn because, like, you're Joe Lovano. You can't be playing a horn in this condition. Like, please let me do this service for you. So he goes to lunch. I go yard on this horn. I start changing all these pads that are ripped and fucked up. And he comes back, and I'm like, "Here you go, man. Here you go, Joe Lovano. I got you." And he goes and first thing he does is he tries to play a low B flat, and it's Joe, so it's like, he lays into it. That guy uses more air than anybody.
He's also huge.
Yeah,
right?
he's a big dude. So he goes to play low B flat and just goes like that, and my heart fell to my dick. It was like all the blood drained out of my body. But it was a great lesson because what I learned was that he uses, and a lot of players, Seamus does this too, like they use so much air pressure that actually when the horn is sealing, they're blowing stuff open all the time. So I had to go back into his horn before his gig that night and change like half the springs and make them really, really tight because like all the side keys, like side B flat, those were the ones that were ripped. And literally because they were leaking, that was allowing him, ironically, to play easier because it was releasing the back pressure.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And he was playing was that his Borgani or like a Con?
I believe that was actually the balanced.
Oh, the balance.
That was like his papa's horn. So
Yeah.
like I screwed up his dad's horn. But we have a great relationship now.
Oh, that's good.
And I learned a really important lesson, which is like,
That's wild.
let the player dictate what they want. You can't just impose your will on them as a
Right.
repair technician.
Wow.
Anyways, there you go.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to ask you a question. Of all of the, obviously we have hundreds of thousands of millions of saxophones in this room right now. What is the best consignment story that you've gotten about a saxophone? I have one that you told me one time that is hilarious, but I want you
Best consignment story.
like someone like is trying to sell a horn, like has a story about the horn. Like this was like, have you gotten any like fake or weird stories about someone like trying to
Oh, wow. What
sell
did I
something
tell
here?
you?
Do you remember that guy that like sent a video saying that this was one of John Coltrane saxophones?
Oh, that's a really good one.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
It was
Holy
clearly like
shit.
a Mexican, like one of those old Mexicans that someone found in a closet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. I had gotten an email from someone who was, I think, connected to a Baptist church
Yes.
in like High Point or
Somewhere.
somewhere related to
Coltrane. Yeah.
And they were claiming that they had one of his horns, and the guy was just flat out, he's like, "I'm looking for $1 million."
$1 million?
Yeah, and he
Just
made
a-
a whole video about
Just
it.
straight up to $1 million. Yeah, there's a hilarious video. If I do an impersonation of it, I will get canceled. But you should look at it. Hopefully it's still available.
We'll
'Cause
find
I
it.
remember I sent it to like everybody I possibly could.
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
Where he's talking about like, he has absolutely no provenance that this is Coltrane's horn, but he can feel the spirit of Train in this horn. And yeah, it was like an 80s Mexican-made con tenor. Yeah. I know it's fake, but like I want to just see what happens if I push back on this guy. And
Yeah.
it just all came down to like, I can feel like the essence of him in this instrument. And like, whoa, we don't need paperwork. Give me $1 million. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I can top that one. That
Okay,
one's pretty damn good.
Was he mad at you when you basically told him?
Yeah, he was pissed. I mean, I did it as gently as possible because I just wanted to I felt like a 911 operator. I wanted to keep him on the line, so I kept I was I was giving a little bit, but then also I didn't just tell him you're a bullshit artist,
Yeah.
It was oh yeah, so tell me more about the soul that you feel in the horn.
You didn't remind him what year Coltrane died or anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Nope.
Okay. Good.
No.
That would kind of.
That would have ruined his.
Whole everything.
Yeah, that was incredible. Thank you for reminding me of that. I mean, so much crazy shit has happened.
Yeah.
That one actually somehow I forgot about it. But yeah.
Okay, and one last, and I guess we don't have to talk about this, but I think it would be really great.
Oh no.
This
is what you planned when I went outside?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the best pitch you've gotten to be a Boston Sax Shop artist?
Ooh. I like that.
Because I know,
wow.
I'm sure you get a trillion of these.
I do get quite a bit. Okay, there's basically two different ways I get approached to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first is much more common, which is just can I have free reads? Or I really think Boston Sax Shop. Okay, this is the funny thing. Most people will reach out and they'll be like, I love Boston Sax Shop. You guys make great stuff. And I'd really like to try your neck. And then I'll reach out and be like, have you ever ordered anything? And the first thing I do, by the way, is anybody who ever reaches out, the first thing I do is I check our order history.
Sure.
And I'm like, you've never purchased anything from us, which is not to say that that's the end all be all, but I'm not going to want to work with someone that doesn't already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You bought almost all the stuff before.
Yeah.
For sure.
I bought a neck. I bought a case.
Yeah.
I bought a neck strap.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not being very humorous right now. It's
No,
just
just
and
hanging,
the other
man.
thing is you wouldn't believe how much it affects me. I feel bad. I feel bad about it when people ask to be an artist and I can't do it. Even the people that are just obviously fishing for free stuff, I feel guilty. And then I get pissed because I feel bad that I feel bad. And then it's just it's a whole mental psychological breakdown type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. People will send me the full, their full press kit and all the, their YouTube channel and everybody they've recorded with. And then I literally will send an email back that's just have you ever tried them before?
Right.
Because they're literally I'll get people that will send those and then they're ready to commit in the email. They're sign me up. And I'm you've never even played it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me feel good about it.
Yeah.
Or what's even better is when people will list who they're currently endorsed with.
Yeah.
And have never tried this stuff. And I'm you know what? I really love to work with people that are immediately willing to bail on their relationships.
Right.
Because I talked to you guys about, you were a free agent, fortunately. But I remember talking to you and I was I get it. As much as I rag on these.
Yeah.
Well, I
companies.
was a free agent for Reeds, but I was with Sios at a certain
That's
point.
right. That's
but
right.
yeah.
I get it. It's a tough thing to walk away from. And I've actually,
well-
most of the people that have come on, it took a minute to decide if you were going to do it, especially the people that were working with you, the Ario Van Dorn or whatever. And, I respect that.
Yeah.
So, when somebody sends me an email and they're like, yeah, I've been playing, Diodara Jazz, for, 25 years, but, I'd really like to be part of Boston Sax Shop. And they've never tried it. I'm immediately, it's a no.
Yeah.
It's an instant no.
And a lot of, companies usually you reach out to people that you want to work with. The likelihood of you somebody reaching out to a company and being please sponsor me,
Interestingly enough, I don't know because I'm not inside those companies, but if you look at some of the endorsements that have happened over the last couple of years, I think they literally are just oh, he's got over 10,000 followers on Instagram. Done. In.
Right.
What's the worst that can happen?
Right.
Because this is what most people don't realize, which we talked about when you guys came on, is that really to endorse somebody in the traditional sense, just give them free reads for a year, it's a couple $100.
Right.
It's not a huge investment from the company's perspective.
Yeah.
It's probably, and like you said, if they do have over 10,000 or whatever number, that's way better advertisement. What could you get it for a couple $100 advertising? A few shares on Facebook.
Nothing.
That's about it.
Right.
So that's why
it is
right. Some people will not be named send me Instagram posts of check out this new endorser, for whatever company.
Yeah.
And I'm yes, that's hilarious, but at the same time, of course, what do they have to lose?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
I can't imagine the amount of DMs that
It's funny because to me, when you talk about endorsements and stuff, when I was in school, high school, well, I wasn't really that connected with stuff in high school because I was high school for me was pre-Facebook. So it was obviously Instagram and all this stuff. But, going through that, I saw like, oh, you're endorsed by this. This means like, they're probably booking tours for you around the world and albums.
Sure.
It's not that.
No.
And it's more of a relationship.
Yeah.
Which I think is super important, which is once again why I love what you're doing, because it is like, and this isn't just like a love fest over here, but legitimately it could be. The when like the relationship of like working together.
Yeah.
It's not just like, okay, you're signing me like we're a baseball player and you have to go do all these things, and you don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me what videos to post, and you don't tell us what to do.
Yeah, it's like a relation. Like, hey, I have this thing coming out. Can we work together on this? Or or like, hey, I'm going to send you this mouth, to try out or whatever, But usually, like, I mean, I don't know about other people, but like when I post for you, usually I give you ahead of time. Hey, I'm thinking about doing a video about this. Is this cool with you? Like, can you share? That kind of stuff. It's
It's a relationship, and I think both parties are responsible for certain things. Like, once again, other companies not to be named. Certain companies have no, I guess, incentive to even share their own artist stuff, because the artist has more pull than the company itself, and they're just letting them all do the work for them, like for a couple boxes of reeds a year, like you said. And it's pretty interesting when you see that. That's not a relationship to me. That's kind of cheap advertising.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hey, listen, if everybody's aware of what's going on, sure. But if one person thinks they're getting some type of deal and the other people feel like they're not getting something out of it, then it's an imbalance of power there. So
for sure,
it's interesting.
Yeah. It's we could go down that rabbit hole for so long.
Yeah, we could. It can get real dark.
Yeah, it could get really, really dark. But I think the hang that we've had so far and in this hour of time has been fantastic.
I have a couple things for Jack. Jack, we've been talking about. No, you're good. He's preparing. People. I think it's cool for people to know about what you do, the Boston Sax Shop, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things you like outside of music? Outside of saxophone.
You're teeing me up here.
I am teeing you up, and it could be anything you want. As much information or as little as you want to give. But what makes you tick?
I mean, honestly, not to take the fun out of that question, but I've really actually struggled with that over the last couple years, because maybe you guys have a similar experience, but I feel like when you're in the musician community, it's kind of frowned upon to really do anything.
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah, I know.
Don't get me started.
Like, man. I hate to say
rise and grind, hustle. If you ain't working, you're dying. Whatever. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I interrupted the shit out of you today. I don't know. Like, that's been a really tough thing for me, because the first thing that I think I was ever willing to admit that I had any kind of talent for was playing the saxophone, and that didn't happen until later for me, like high school. And I think we live in a culture that, like, really we like want to pigeonhole ourselves, because it's really hard to kind of have a sense of purpose without that, right? Like, you want to be able to label yourself as doing this thing. This is who you are. This is what you do. And again, even within the musician community, I feel like it's even more like, like if you do anything besides play, it's almost looked down. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like when I started the business, I mean, I had friends that were like, you just sold out.
Really?
No, I know.
That's
but like, you
wild.
can also see that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just in the same vein as, like, obviously there's some people that are players, but have also been very successful financially with their side businesses, and they're kind of like shamed a little bit, right? Like, I've had this conversation with a couple people that have done really well, and like, they don't feel comfortable like sharing certain photographs, or like, and it should be something, I think, that's celebrated, that like, you figured out a way to make this work. Like, that's crazy. Anyways, back to your point, I played saxophone. I was obsessed. I did practice 8 hours a day. That's all I did. I ate, lived and breathed it for, the first decade of my adult life. I started this business. I was working 80 hours a week. I basically transitioned my sense of self into this place. And this was everything, was just busting ass all the time. Like, there was no time for anything else. And there's kind of a certain comfort that you get when you have that thing, which is, well, we're not going to talk about organized religion. But like when you have something that defines you so succinctly, there's a comfort in that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, well, I know who I am. I know where I stand in the world. I can show up and this is what I do, and I can describe it in a way that's very coherent. Because nobody wants to be the guy that's like, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. Like that's really uncomfortable, and I respect the shit out of people that can do that.
Yeah.
I've never been able to do that. I've always wanted something. So as the business has continued to grow, and now I'm not fixing horns anymore, and I'm just owning the business and appearing on podcasts. And like, designing products, like I've had a really hard time kind of figuring out what defines me outside of that. And not that your hobby should define you, but like I don't really have an in-between. Like when I get into something, there's like I have to go hardcore. So yeah, I mean the things that I have found that I really like are, outside of this industry, like working with like the watch thing. Like I really have fallen in love with mechanical watches and working a little bit in that industry on the side. And fashion to a degree. So I don't know. I'm in a weird position where I'm kind of still trying to figure that out, in a way that's going to be healthy. Sorry, that wasn't really the answer you were looking for, cool. I'm sure, but
I'm not looking for any. I'm just looking for what you think.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? I mean, I think that's something that we all, even outside of music, we all struggle with that so much.
Yeah.
It's really uncomfortable to not be able to put a pin on what you do and who you are.
It's interesting. Like my father-in-law is a medical physicist, and it's interesting in that field. I feel like someone that goes in and
I guess he doesn't have a music degree.
No.
Okay.
So, but like I think it's interesting. Like for him, like I think him and his coworkers like celebrate when they are not thinking about work. Like when they have hobbies outside of work.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like people that are like working more, maybe not in the arts or something like that. Like I feel like it might be the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's so cool.
We don't
really
do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I agree.
I think a lot of it too is because people say like it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. Which it can be, and that's totally fine. Yeah. But then I think young people coming into it who are like, I want to be, good at it, and I want to, maybe make a career out of it or living out of it or whatever. But like, I don't want to just give up everything. And there's those people who are like, you can't have relationships, you can't spend money on anything, you have to sleep next to your saxophone, and it's like, and then they in their head make a choice between playing saxophone or playing music or doing anything else in their life. And then that's why so many people go, well, I guess I'll just never play again. And they instantly, just like that, because they're like, if I'm going to play, apparently I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a shame.
It is a shame. It's it's a really unhealthy culture, I think. I'm certainly still dealing with it. And of course, like, I'm probably was pre-susceptible. That's not a word. I don't know. Like I've always had that kind of like obsessive compulsive, like, drive thing going, but being a part of that community definitely didn't help,
Yeah. It's like a superpower, but it's also a curse at the same time, to be like super focused on something, but then not being able to like think about anything else.
Yeah. Because if I was being honest with myself, I mean, there were years I did practice 8 hours a day, and it became more about the fact that I was practicing 8 hours a day than the practice itself, right? I think we could probably all, like I wanted to be that guy that was the first person in the practice rooms, the last person in the practice rooms, so that somebody would be like, oh, Jack works really hard.
Right.
It's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, the validation. Yeah.
I
mean, that's what a lot of college professors say. It's like, you hear the stories about Bird and like Michael Brecker practicing like, 20 hours a day or whatever. And, and I think like that's a good thing to think about and like to do. But I think when it consumes your entire, because a lot of the stories about famous jazz musicians and stuff like that, they had dark sides of themselves.
Yeah, look what happened to all those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
None of them were healthy.
No.
Mentally or physically aside. Yeah, I think the other thing that's really important that somebody told me that I blew them off at the time because I was totally in that zone. It's just like, I think you can get as good as you want at this. You don't have to do it in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But the other interesting thing that I know both of you, especially you, can speak to is like the whole like young lion horse shittery. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you hit a certain age and it's like if you didn't make that impact
Man,
You're done.
I do not envy kids coming up now, man.
Oh,
I
no
didn't know
way.
if
No.
if I was 16 years old and I went on Instagram and I saw all these kids all around the world just play, I would be like, man,
Throw it in the trash.
yeah, why am I going to keep doing it? It was probably a good thing that I only knew my local.
Yeah.
The only time I would hear other kids play is either in school or at a local jazz festival. I didn't YouTube didn't exist when I was in high
Right.
school, right? Like, YouTube, none of that stuff. So we didn't have to be told, like, look at all these other great people, look how great they are.
Yeah.
It's like the thing when you look how you look and you go on Instagram and you see all these perfect, and like, oh my God.
That's what filters are for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean in terms of, like, did you guys ever feel like there was a certain, well, certainly, people get a lot of acclaim and they get a lot of recognition if they're really good at a young age. But have you ever felt, and specifically you, because you fall into that category and you're one of the rare ones that had that innate natural talent at a young age, but you didn't just stay static. Like, you've kept moving forward, which I really, really appreciated. Because I think that every generation can probably think of a couple different saxophone players and musicians that were like, oh, this guy is going to be famous.
Yeah.
This is the prodigy. And then you never hear about him after 20 years because they peaked.
Yeah.
You know, and not in terms of, because they got so much recognition. I feel like that maybe they got so much recognition that they're like, well, I don't need to keep moving forward. Like, I'm already better than everybody else.
Right.
So that being said, have you ever felt like there's a certain age where maybe that goes away? Like that whole the talent versus the age thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when people get to undergrad is when a switch has to flip. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you get these kids in high school, like you're talking about, that can just, but then they go to college and they see the amount of work that it takes outside of playing the saxophone, or even just in different parts of playing the saxophone or whatever instrument that require work. Because a lot of these kids, are super duper talented. They are born with perfect pitch. They listen to a ton of records and they're doing this and it's all fun. And then they get to college and they see it more as a job and they're like, it's not for me.
Right.
Or they get burnt out or whatever it is. But I think in that undergrad period is when you get the separation of people that are going to be having a career in this, and then maybe just they were super talented in high school, but now they're going to go a different route.
Right.
But I feel like now I'm 27 now. I feel like I'm not. I feel like now it's I'm not looked at as much of a young lion anymore. Maybe that's not true, but
and I feel like that age has gotten younger over the
yeah,
years.
I agree.
You know
if
what I
you're
mean?
15 in Burn and you're a young lion, but if you're 22 in Burn, it's like, oh, he went to college.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Wow. I think it's going to keep getting younger and younger.
It's just he's not born yet. He sounds like Train. He sounds like late Train.
Dude,
Yeah.
he sounds amazing. Oh, he's a teenager. Oh,
Yeah.
On
over
the
the hill.
they got the ultrasound.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Man, what strength reeds is he using in there? Wow. What a new sound.
it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Anyways,
don't know. It's an interesting.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Tough.
It's a tough.
Let's end on something positive.
Well, since we can't think of anything positive, thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you so much for watching. There's nothing positive to be said here.
Nothing.
Okay,
What is positive, Ryan?
What
Look
is
at this
positive?
beautiful place we're in.
Man,
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah,
it's so aesthetically pleasing.
It
here.
really is.
it could be better, but thank you.
Let's also give a shout out to Leatherback Roasters for the Wrong Notes Only coffee that you can
Shout out.
buy.
So leathery.
So leatherly,
So
so much back,
yeah.
so much body in it. Yeah,
Why did you? Are you okay?
I'm fine. I was gonna laugh before I said it, but then I
You were
said
laughing
it
at
anyway.
yourself.
Yeah, I was laughing at myself.
Okay, it's good you can admit that.
Yeah. Anyway, Leatherback, thank you so much for sponsoring this. Thank you to Boston Sax Shop for all your support and everything that we do.
I think we're going to put some links, if you're on YouTube, get links in the description down below where you can get more information about the coffee, more information, obviously, about Boston Sax Shop, about both of us as well.
And if you want to sponsor an episode of The Hang, please hit us up, send us an email. We will absolutely wear, eat, share, sell your products. So we can't wait for that.
Absolutely. Jack, thanks so much.
Dude, thank you so much. Remember, everybody, the hang is more important than the gift.
Hey,